Hello everyone. I've been having a bit of downtime recently because I've not been too well, but as a part of that and as I'm a bit idle, I thought I'd take the opportunity to introduce people a bit more to the humble hard drive, something we all rely on every day for data storage and various other bits and pieces, and maybe to introduce people a little more to how they work and inform them a bit better. Anyhow, before I proceed with this video, I'll first apologise for my rather poor video manner. I'm terrible at doing YouTube videos, but I try and do my best all the same. But the thing I must emphasise importantly is you're about to see a hard drive with its cover removed. You should never, ever attempt to gain access to or enter a hard drive unless it's one that you do not need to recover any data from and one that you will never need to use again. The tolerances of a hard drive, mechanical and otherwise, are very, very, very minute indeed. And as a result, if a hard drive is being opened for service or for data recovery, it has to be done in a Class 1 clean room environment, which is completely free of dust and other contaminants that are normally airborne. And as you may be able to see here, I'm doing this in my front room, which is by no means a Class 1 clean room. Anyhow, so I'll just take this off. And what you can see inside is the inner workings of a hard disk. This is of course a 3.5-inch hard drive, typical of the type found in most desktop computers. You'll also find this sort of hard drive normally inside NAS drives, NAS appliances. You might also find them inside other appliances such as larger televisions, media center appliances, particularly network hard drives, NAS drives. You might even find them buried in your car and various other things. Anyhow, as you can see, this is actually a 40 gig Maxtor Quantum drive of the type normally found in Apple Macintosh computers of the era. This is the 40 gig model. The 80 gig is exactly the same. It just has a second platter above the head, which you can just see here, and which I'll point out here. Other than that, the basic parts of a hard drive are, you can't see it too clearly here, but the cables are attached to the controller. Now that's the mini computer, which, yes, I did just say mini computer. It is technically a computer in its own right. The controller operates the drive, obviously, as the name may imply, and obviously it accepts instructions from the computer, including data to be written, as well as retrieving data from disk to be sent to the host system. The controller is responsible for all of the logic necessary in locating where on the disk the data is stored, moving the heads to that position of the disk, finding and then reading the data from the sector, conducting any error correction that may be necessary. For example, if some of the ferromagnetic coating on the disk is less than perfect, and then of course firing that data upstream to the computer. Here inside the actual drive chamber itself, you can see that we have the frame of the hard drive, which is always made of a strong alloy or steel forged construction. This is to prevent the drive from warping or otherwise flexing during long periods of operation or particularly intense or hot operation. Because of course, if the drive were to warp or skew, it would put the heads out of register with the platters and could cause tremendous amounts of damage. Anyhow, going from left to right, here we have the voice coil actuator. The pen itself is actually pointing to a surprisingly strong magnet that many people would be surprised to find in such a delicate device. Inside the magnet is a wound coil, which through the application of various currents, voltages, and polarities, actually allows the armature, to which the head is attached here, to move with a surprising degree of accuracy. Anyhow, obviously, here we have the armature itself. That's what obviously holds the head. And right here, and I'll zoom in closer so you can see this, right there is the actual read-write head, which does the actual business of transferring data, reading data from and writing it to disk. Overall, the principle of a hard drive is no different to an audio cassette, but of course the head and the the head and the magnetic surface are to much finer tolerances than you would ever find in an audio tape. Now sorry, I'm actually just quickly looking for something. Oh, I have lost it. Typical. Right. Anyhow, the actual data is stored here on the platter, which is normally a disc formed of glass or steel, and normally covered with a silver oxide coating or similar ferromagnetic coating. In older hard drives, it's actually the same sort of coating you find on magnetic tape, which is why. But the use of silver oxide coating and various improvements in recording technique is the main reason that hard drives have increased in capacity at surprising rates over the years. Now, as this is the 40 gig model, this just has one platter which holds 40 gig of data. Of course, the 80 gig model just has a second platter exactly the same, and of course a second set of heads. If they ever did a 120 gig version, it would probably be 3 platters. This form factor of drive, as far as I can understand, can hold up to 5 platters. I suppose with some real fine engineering, possibly even 6. That compares with the maximum of 4 in a 2.5 inch laptop hard drive, which is generally what you'd find inside most 2 terabyte hard drives nowadays. Now, once again, I have to emphasise that to open a hard drive like I've done here for the purposes of this demonstration is the worst thing you can do with a hard disk, and because obviously the tolerances between the platter and the head are so infinitesimally small that even the smallest speck of dust, if it gets trapped between the head and the platter, will cause a tremendous amount of damage. It may not be visible with the human eye, but it will be done. Now, when a hard drive spins up, the disk spins, producing a cushion of air which actually causes the head to float above the surface of the disk, which is how the head is able to move back and forth very, very quickly across the surface of the disk, because it's not in actual physical contact. The benefits of that are similar to the benefits of a maglev train versus a conventional wheel-on-rail train. But because the fly height of the head above the surface of the disk is so small indeed, it is literally something like 100,000th or even a millionth of a millimetre. So that's literally 1 picometre. That's such a small clearance indeed. It is why just the smallest speck of dust can completely destroy a hard drive, and this is why the platter tank, as I call it, the actual interior of the hard drive, is sealed as much as possible against dust ingress. Now, finally, before I start this up so you can see it working, or working as well as a drive can in this state, you may notice this little piece of plastic here. That is actually part of a locking device which locks the armature in this position. Now, this particular type of drive is a platter park drive. The head rests on the platter when the drive is not in use. More modern drives normally have what's called a ramp, which is located around here, and are known as ramp park drives. And that is where the head is moved physically off the platter and parked on a ramp when the drive is not in use. And what this means is that with platter park hard drives, the downside of them is that if the drive receives particular shock, even while it's off and while it's parked, damage can still be done to the disk. But the advantage with platter park hard drives like this is that, provided they're treated well, they tend to be better for quicker access, and they tend to be better for long runs, because of course, as the drive never spins down, the head never comes into contact with the platter. With more modern drives, which park their heads around here off the disk, the advantage with them is that they can theoretically take more physical shock when they're not in use. But the downside is there may be more of a risk of head crash as the heads are loaded or unloaded onto or off the disk when the drive is spun up or spun down. Excuse me. Now, again, referring to that little piece of plastic in the corner there, when I start this up, you will see that the airflow from the spinning disc will actually move this out, unlocking the armature and allowing the armature to move. And I'm sure quite a few of you might be interested in actually seeing this go, so I will just quickly hit the power switch. And as you can see, the platters itself, the platters themselves have spun. This has unlocked. Because of the state of the disc, that there you just saw was a click of death, incidentally. Because of the state of the disc, obviously this would not work the way a normal hard drive would. But as you can see, the heads were able to move as unlocked due to the airflow over the disc, which I can actually feel on my hand as I'm holding my phone here. Now, if a hard drive loses power, the disc obviously spin down. In this case, the head just stays on track. The head just stays on its landing zone. On a ramp park hard drive, the head would snap back to the parking area here to try and offload to try and get the heads off the surface of the disc before the loss of the air cushion, which would keep the heads flying. Once again, I do apologise for my really terrible video manner. I'm just hoping that this is still proving to be the relatively educational experience I intended it to be. I will spin this up again just so you can see it go again. And again, the heads are unlocked. At the moment, the controller's trying to adapt to the conditions of the drive, but because the drive is not able to initialise, as you can see, the armature just moves a few times, giving what's commonly known as a click of death, which is the indicator of a failure condition. Which, even if this drive had been working before I took it apart for this demonstration, it wouldn't obviously be working now. Although it's not easy to see from this camera, there are actually quite a few particles of dust on the surface of the disc itself, which have probably done quite a bit of damage to the head. And it's only because this disc is one that is a spare one. It's got no important data on it. It's not working, so I thought no harm in tearing it apart and showing the world how they actually go. Oh, I wish I was better at these things. Yeah, I am really, really sorry for my poor video manner, but I'm hoping that this might have given an insight into how hard drives work, the sheer fine tolerances of their operation, some education on how they work and why they need to be so carefully treated. So that external hard drive that you always throw into your work bag every morning, treat it with care and with respect, preferably keep it in a padded case, and for goodness sake, make sure you always use safety remove hardware and let it turn itself off before you disconnect it from the computer. As you can see, hard drives are very, very sensitive, delicate, and very finely engineered devices. And although they work really, really well, they are very easy indeed to break. So that's why care should always be taken with them. Anyhow, as I said, I hope that's been useful to some of you out there. I'm really, really sorry my video manner's so damn terrible, but sadly this is just me. Some people are naturally born to do YouTube videos. The rest of us, we're terrible, but we still try and get some information across anyway. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please don't downrate me too much for my video manner. It's not done by choice, I can assure you. And hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.